Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this second session on mobility. You may have noticed that the programme has changed in that the final speaker is now going to be Carsten Bormann, who's going to be speaking on WBON, WLAN, roaming based on deep security. Anyway, I won't take too much time introducing people because you can read it in the book, because I know we're going to be short of time this morning. So I'd like to introduce our first two speakers, and it's Sami Kaskikasari and Kari Huuhtanen. My pronunciation is very bad, and I apologise, I'm English. And they're going to speak on, if I can find the book, Applying Radio Space to Public Access Roaming to the Finnish University Network. And Sami is going to be the first speaker.
Okay, thanks Shirley. And good morning everyone. So, you will get today quite good introduction to work that we are doing in Mobility Task Force. And okay, this is our presentation. So, in that program book, in my bio, there was Kari's email address. So, this is the right one for me. Okay, so I'm going to talk about connecting public access network in Finland using radius-based hierarchy. So, okay. How does this work? Okay, now the content of presentation is this kind of first background telling why we are doing this kind of job, and especially why should every UNRIN and university do that job also. And this is the first 2 points. Second point is the network architecture that we have, and also that roaming architecture, so that radius-based hierarchy. Okay, I am going to pick these 2 points, and then we will change, and Kari will talk about current state of our roaming, some requirements for organizations that want to join to that hierarchy or that roaming. Then at least every presentation that considers this kind of things should include security issues, and so will we. And then there is links and contact information. Okay, first question, what is public access roaming? Or maybe better question should be, what is public access? So the public access is temporal access to the network, and via both wireless and wired media. For example, here we have wireless LAN, and you want to use it nowadays almost everywhere. And that's why there should be some kind of public access that you can connect to internet wherever you are. Like here, there was WebKey in use, but it doesn't scale, and they took it away, and now it's really open network, so everyone can connect to that network if they want. That's why it should be also authenticate access to network, and that's why there should be some kind of method to do that authentication. But if you are doing authentication, you need some credentials, username and password, one-time password or something. That's why there's that public access roaming. So it is a way to transfer authentication information between two organizations so that visiting users can get access to that network. Okay, why public access roaming? So nowadays mobility of students are increasing. At least in Finland we have some kind of virtual university projects and that kind of things. So when you are somewhere else that in your home university, you should get access to see presentations or lecturers. And for example, going some university's library and get access and get that video stream. Okay, so that's one why. Then faculty members, project members, visiting lecturers, and that kind of people. So they need to get access to the network also. Now the access to that network or authentication to that network is done separately in almost every organization. There is some MAC address lists, different size of web keys. Some are using 40 bits, some are using 128 bits, and something like that. Then there is VPN possibilities, captive portals, 802.1x, and the last is that there is not any authentication. So that causes problems because everyone is using. So you can't know what kind of authentication is in some place that you are going. And also that authentication database are separate. Someone are using Radius, someone are using LDAP, someone are using plain text files and that kind of things. So there's no any common way to do that. And at least if someone is using LDAP and Radius and that kind of thing, so they should be combined somehow. And why there should be a common way is that if there are different authentication methods, so it's confused the end user, causes problems to administrator because you have to install 802.1x client, VPN client, some other clients, and so you can't know what kind of clients you need, and that costs. If you are installing Windows something, can you really know that it works after that? So that's why there should be that kind of way that you know. So if you are able to use it in your home university, you can use it in some other university. And also, if there are no way to combine those user database, you can't use them. And then, if you are going to some other university, you have to go to administrator and say, "Hi, I want temporal access to your network," and then they will do some kind of username and password that you can use. So that's why we start to make it in Finland that we could use the common way, so that at least inside Finland you can use the same way, or at least there are only one or two ways to do authentication, and we can also use our Radius database or LDAP database, so that we can give access to visiting users. Okay. And now that network architecture that we have, so in university you have intranetworks that is your work competence and that kind of things are here. And also you get a public access network, but it's not connected to internet. And there's a controller that controls who are able to transfer data outside this network and from outside to inside this network. And so we are using captive portals because of the fact that at least every laptops, PDAs, every equipment that has VLAN capabilities usually have a web browser, and that web browser supports SSL. So it works in most cases. And okay, we don't have any single point of failure, so in different locations we have different public access controllers, so if this is broken they can use it in that location. And also this public access network should never be connected so that you are inside your network. So you should be outside network as this internet is, because VLAN is not safe way to do anything. That's why you have to use VPN client or something to connect that your intranetwork. Okay, then we have that AAA 3A server that use the authentication. It's same database that we are using in dial-up connections. And then there is that roaming proxy. These controllers are connected to that roaming proxy, and it knows where it should be transfer that authentication request. This is separate server for that reason that if you are using directly this one, then your dial-up or some other services could roam also, and in most cases that's not what you are wanting. And yes, those. Okay. Yeah. Okay. And here's the roaming architecture. So here is our AE server, for example, radius. If you have diameter, you can use it. And then there's roaming proxy, our public access network, and that's our normal network. Then there's our VNet network that has main roaming server, and then there's some other organization. There's also public access network, roaming proxy, and AAA server. And when our user goes to this network, he gets a web page and he must authenticate. Or he launches some client and he must authenticate. Then the authentication request goes to roaming proxy. It sees that it's not on that organization's users. Roaming proxy sends it to central roaming proxy, and it checks that where is FI or where is tut.fi, and then it sends to our roaming proxy, and it sees that, okay, now it's Tuts user, so it sends it to the Tuts AAA server, and the authentication response goes the same way. Okay, because Radius messages are unencrypted, there is one possibility to use IPsec between those links, because this server and this server are sharing some secret. And if that secret is compromised, the attacker between these can get access to those networks, to those messages, and see username and password in clear text. And that's why there should be some kind of security also. Okay, and now next is Karri.
Maybe it's the simplest way. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Yes?
No, actually it's the same presentation.
It's the same presentation.
Yeah,
Okay.
you didn't have to change it. Okay, I will continue this presentation about what's the current state of public access roaming in Finland, and also about few security issues that are connected to this kind of approach to the roaming. So, current state of public access roaming in Finland. We have been talking around and presenting this idea for a while now in Finland. We started in last autumn, and then we have gone around in FUNET meetings and talking to system administration people and trying to get the idea through. It really has paid us a back in a sense that in Tampere region there is Tampere University and us, Tampere University of Technology, that have a common architecture for building their wireless LAN or public access network. And that means they are capable also to roam between each other. And we are trying to do it so that during this summer we will make all the technical things there, and we will connect Tampere University and Tampere University Technology, so the students and lecturers and all kind of personnel can roam between these universities. We have also helped organizations in Vaasa region to make this kind of same architecture public access network there. There are few organizations that want to do a common wireless LAN architecture there. They want to roam between the organizations. So we have shown them the idea and supported them by email or in having meetings about how to design things there. In return, I think we have managed to get them, for example, software patches for access controller software. And I think also that region may join to the roaming area in the summer or at least in the autumn. It is in our vision that the regional roaming comes first, defining kind of defining the policies and practices how we do these kind of things, how we do public access networks, what are needed there. Should we use SSL encrypted captive portals and things like that. And after that comes, of course, inter-region roaming, like Tampere and Vaasa. And maybe after that comes also this inter-NRN roaming that Sami has been working for in Terena's mobility task force. I actually think this inter-region roaming will come even sooner, because at least in the mobility task force meeting we agreed to do the connection of our radius hierarchies, probably during summer also. Okay, something about those requirements for organizations we have when we introduce this roaming architecture. Well, the first is obvious. They should have a common user account database. It's preferably with radius, but our roaming proxy there, it's based on FreeRadius software. It can be modified to do kind of translation also from the LDAP or diameter database. Well, actually it can be done from the LDAP database. Diameter is here for a future possibility, but currently it's not, it's not used in any of those commercial devices that are used to do the captive portal in the network. Okay, then there are these free or commercial public access controllers. There are quite a lot of software and also commercial devices to do this kind of captive portal that presents you a web page and then you must authenticate there. And there are few examples of those. This OSS is a software, so is no cutout. They are both freely available from the network, and then there are commercial implementations from Nokia, Nomadix, Vernier Networks. Well, obviously when we use a TLS or SSL secured web page authentication, we must also have some kind of certificate authority to generate the certificates needed for those access controllers. We actually may use this same CA to do also that IPsec secured tunnels between those roaming servers Sami was talking about. And then this public access roaming proxy that is introduced in the organization's network. Well, it may be Unix, Linux, or BSD host that runs, for example, FreeRadius there. And it can be introduced in the network as an addition to the organization AAA server, so you don't have to go around changing your AAA server settings or the software in there. And of course, this because this is kind of experimental technology, you need an open mind, desire to work together, and the support of the system administrator staff to get this thing going. Okay, about a few security issues there. Badly maintained access controllers, roaming proxies, AAA servers. I think when you have a Linux or Unix boxes in your network, this is one threat there. If you don't maintain them, they are probably having all kind of remote root hosts there for crackers to abuse. Then, depending on the host location in the network, compromising it may jeopardize all user accounts of the roaming organizations. If we, for example, managed to get that root roaming server, or at least a regional route server, may turn their, for example, radius to go to the debug mode and read all passwords and usernames from the text file. So that's why extra attention should be directed to the host security and also this kind of security of the traffic. Of course, allowing only IPsec secure traffic between network elements, it is not the solution, as systems may be compromised locally via other network daemons like SSA and SNMP. We need those to manage the servers there. Okay, one well-known problem, certificates and distribution. I don't think we will ever get past this one, so we just have to do it. We need those certificates for the captive portals. We cannot assume that the end user will, in each country or each region, to just search out for the CA certificate and install it on her terminal. Because of this, soon we have a need for a common PKI infrastructure handling those trust relationships between organizations and environments. Then, okay, these were the technical things. These are more like political things here. We are having a lot of different organizations with different kind of security policies, and in different countries we have all kind of legal issues as well. For example, is it allowed to transfer username password pair between organizations, and what are the conditions for that? What about the statistics gathered from the users, for example, traffic amounts, profiles, in what detail we can store them or research them or just follow them? And then there are these trust issues, roaming policies and practices. We have a lot of organizations. Someone are doing it with different captive portal thing, with different radius, with different methods to do things. I think we should at least have a recommendations what's the proper way to do things, so the system administration staff in each organization can trust to that other organization that they are doing this thing well there. The organization must be able to trust each other and their roaming partners' capability of securing and maintaining their systems. And that's why the roaming organization must together kind of define the roaming architecture and policies, and based on practical issues, not so that you do a very fine system first, and then you see nobody wants to actually use it. You just it's much better to implement some things there and then decide with the parties involved how things should be done. Well, this last point is here. This may not be very far from the roaming or peering agreements between cellular and internet operators. This may be a good thing, or it may be a bad thing. It depends on the level of bureaucracy involved there. But I think we actually have to have some kind of policies, recommendations to do these things, because it's easier then to convince, at least in Finland, organizations to join this kind of roaming scheme. Okay, and for the conclusion of this presentation, there are links and contact information. Our wireless network architecture is found from that address there, and we have also started one web page for the roaming architecture there. Of course, Sami and I are here. I think we are during the whole day. We are going to the Cisco thing later this day, but we are here to answer your questions.
Okay. Thank you very much to Sami and Kari. I think we've got time for one question now. Has anyone got a burning question now rather than leave it later? There's one right over in the corner.
In the roaming architecture, can you have more than 2 levels? We have an air roaming server and another level, but you can also have more than 2 levels.
Yeah, we can do it so that, for example, this there could be more levels here, and this roaming proxy can actually do also that for example we have organization in the Tampere area. The roaming server could there direct those authentication requests to the local servers there, and they don't have to go necessarily through the main server here. Does that answer your question?
Okay.
Thank you very much to Sami and Kari.